Okay, so we will continue from the last class, last topic. Okay, on the financial reporting, I think I will finish off the lecture and then stop discussing on the cash accounting, okay, as a basis of for preparing for financial accounting and also for accounting system. Okay, we discuss on the reporting as well, and then with the disclosure requirements, right? And then I think we discuss on modified cash. Okay, so an example of the extension period, and I think we stop there before we move to this modified accrual accounting. Right, before I start, any question? Can you hear me, class?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Okay, so with regards to modified accrual accounting, I think you understand accrual accounting, what it is. Okay, in terms of recognition and recording. But then look at the second second point. In modified accrual, they don't include physical assets. Okay, physical assets are not presented in the financial statements. Okay, but sometimes physical assets generally, I think nowadays mainly PPE, isn't it? Okay, with the MFRS, at least you have PPE and investment properties. Okay, so these two types. With these PPE and investment properties, under modified accrual, okay, will not be presented, okay, in the financial statement. So basically, I think assets would be balance sheet. Right, if you look at the third point, only disclosure future commitment requirements by recognizing financial asset and liabilities. So definitely receivables and liabilities will be recognized. And then so net financial assets with revenue and expenditures. I think it's quite easy to remember modified accrual accounting because of the exclusion of physical assets. Right, now full accrual. Okay, I think you understand what full accrual accounting is. And the MPSAs that we'll discuss later on is basically based on accrual accounting, full accrual. So the MPSAs, of course, IFRS is accrual accounting, and then it's basically the modified version of IFRS, and then it will be modified to make it consistent with the characteristics of public sector organizations, okay, their operations, okay, their cash flow, the nature of their expenses and revenue. And basically MPSAs that we'll discuss is based on accrual accounting. Okay, it's the basis of the standards. Right, some evaluation on accrual accounting, record asset, liabilities, debtors, creditors, clear separation of revenue and capital, facilitate managerial control. Okay, so I think managerial control supported by the fourth point there, encourage development of value for money approaches. Okay, where basically the three is efficiency, effectiveness, and economy. So because accrual accounting enable to account for full costs. Increase financial transparency in public sector, sharing good practice from private sector. Okay, that is for the benefits. Oh, I think the slide is hanging. Can you see accrual accounting evaluation?
No.
No, sir.
No, all right. Accounting evaluation. So I've mentioned on benefits. Now look at the challenges. Requires use of new accounting competency. These are particularly true when it is just recently adopted for government agencies or government bodies. Relatively new skill set for accountants in public sector who will train in cash accounting system. Okay, for instance, like in Malaysian case, for the past and since independent, we use cash-based accounting, and then we move to accrual accounting. So basically, if you join government, and then you have that experience of 20, 30 years accountant in government, then of course, the last time you learn accrual was in the college or in the university. Then you have to come back, learn back what are accrual accounting and what are the requirements in the accrual accounting system. So of course, that's require reskilling. Requires another challenges require considerable use of judgment, of course, professional judgment. I think professional judgment, both cash accounting also, there must be professional judgment, accrual accounting. It's just that maybe the transition, from cash to accrual accounting, then they have to develop accounting policies. And they have to adopt. Let's say the easy one is policy on depreciation methods. So which method will be the relevant, corresponding to the operation of the agencies. This require judgment. And on top of that, recognitions of all items within. And on top of that, I think with MFRS and MPSAS, the issue of impairments. And you're talking about impairment tests, for instance. Including estimating cash flows, all that require, the ability and expertise. Of course, I mean, for accountants, sometimes they use experts, right? But to be able to question, I think both at auditor level as well as accountant, to make sure that the basis to prepare those information are reasonable, then I think this require judgment. Definitely, if you compare to cash, there is no such requirements. Like impairment test, there is no such requirement for impairment test because assets are not recognized. And generally, even liability are been disclosed in the notes. So these are dimensions need to be considered when accrual accounting are being adopted. So no more skills are needed. Accounts and budget should be on the same basis. That's another challenge because budget is prepared on cash, whereas if it is accrual, then accounts will be prepared under accrual. I think with that also lead to, I think before they move to full accrual, they provide two types of accounts. One is prepared based on cash basis, and the other accounts is prepared based on accrual basis. Preference for cash basis for parliamentary control. And because it's easy. Apple to apple comparison. Require commitment from management for its usefulness. So in other words, because usefulness by managers depending on their operation, the type of operations. But I think if there are call for efficiency, effectiveness, and economy, so more demand on that basis, proper use of public resources, and then definitely the managers, they can equip themselves with all these skills and knowledge. Comparison, cash and accrual. Income recognized when cash received, whereas accrual when earned or meeting, depending on the standards, meeting all these standard requirements. Expenses recognized when payment made, whereas under accrual recognized when incurred. Assets not capitalized and classified as expenditures. Whereas under accrual will be capitalized and depreciated. And of course, subject to impairment test. Liabilities, credit transactions not reported, reported as expenditures when payment made. So there is a timing issue as well. But of course, later on we discuss about the financial reporting in Malaysian government. There you can see there's the variations. How they treat liabilities, how they disclose and report liabilities. because liabilities is important to know because it's part of debt management of the country, of the government. Secondly, this also, I think, concern of Malaysians in general, and definitely represented by the politicians and members of parliament. Okay, so liabilities are important, but so how they report it. Okay, whereas under cash basis, it is not directly reported in the financial statements. Okay, whereas accrual recognized when incurred, okay, and also subjected to what do you call it, estimations, credit loss, and I think for financial asset as well, okay, estimations for credit losses. Okay, now we move on to the source of these standards, okay, financial accounting and reporting framework under IPSB. Okay, so just take note of that, the source of the standards, okay. Right, in terms of practice, okay, just an example here, United Kingdom, under central government, the responsibility of the Treasury, I think in terms of financial reporting as well as adopting and preparing the accounting standards. And you can see that local authorities, local government, definitely local government, okay, there are needs of reporting system. I think both in Malaysian case. I think in Malaysian case, in the case for local government, just, of course, our class, we focus on the federal government, okay, mainly. But for local government, they use accrual accounting, okay, ever since, for many, many years. I think they have that option to use cash basis or accrual accounting, okay, but depending on their needs. And okay, that's in the UK and in the US. Okay, many setting bodies for the state and local governments. Okay, they have NCGA and Council of State Government. This one, General Accounting Office (GAO). Okay, for federal government. And they establish for government accounting standard. They have GASB. Yeah, okay, for local or states and as well as okay federal governments. For GSB, because for the private sector is FASB, yeah, okay, FASB, Federal Accounting Standard Board. Okay, for government they call it Governmental Accounting Standard Board. Okay, that's for the US. Right, a bit more information on IFAC. So it's a global body, okay, for accounting, and I think all members of professional bodies generally members of IFAC. Even for like in our country, MIA generally member of this IFAC. Then they can share all its expertise and knowledge. Professional bodies they do, okay, but the country professional body as well, or regulatory body on accounting, they also member of IFAC. And represent 2.5 million accountants. Okay, so IFSB also is set up under IFAC. Right, another institutions at the bottom there is INTOSAI, okay, International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions. I think they also provide guidance on good use of best standards. But later on, it's basically for auditing. Reports on issues and development of international accounting standards for governments, right? But they're also in charge of auditing standards. Okay. Right, okay, IPSB objective to develop high quality program aims at improving public sector financial management and accountability, including developing accounting standard and promoting their acceptance. Okay, so you can see that at the bottom there, of course, the local, the government, okay, the professional bodies at the respective countries must adopt the standard before the standard can be practiced or can be used by the government in respective countries. Okay. In the case of Malaysian government, we adopt IPSAS, okay, and then we rename it to MPSAS. Okay, so basically, the adoption is almost word to word, except if there are standards which the local need to be revised because of the local scenario is a bit different. I think, if I'm not mistaken, including biological assets. Okay, there are changes, maybe changes or improvement. Okay, definitely in terms of standard development as well. Member countries can also contribute to the development of the accounting standards. All right, I think we can have a look on the, so I provide link where you can get your copy of the standards. Okay. So, these are International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board. Okay, they provide, these are the handbook. Okay, just recently, I think released as well. Okay, these are handbook. You can download it. I think I'm not sure you need to register or otherwise. Okay, you can, I think, register for free, and for you to get to download. Right. So basically, these are the source of the standards, and you can download. I mean, for international students, you can have a look. And then of course but for our class, the discussion is for using MPSAS, but it's almost similar because I think the adoption is, I think, word-to-word adoption. It's quite difficult for, I think, let's say in the case of Malaysian government, of course, the agency in charge of the accounting standard is, what do you call it, Accountants General Department, okay, or Jabatan Accountant Negara. Okay, Accountants General Department, and of course then the adoption process, and then before the standards being accepted and adopted by the government. So I think the preference is for the standard to be adopted word to word. Okay, because the idea is they want it to be consistent with their international, because it is an international body. For one of the requirements of the reliability of the financial report is that they must use the international standard. Okay, so I think their preference is to be able to use word to word. But it's just that sometimes some government organizations are so unique. Okay, they don't share, but the extra standards need to be developed. Okay, then of course it's quite difficult to use word to word. So I think those who are interested to look at development of accounting standards. I think in Malaysia, of course, for private sector is MASB. These are the areas where with the accounting qualification, you can get involved. And in the case of AG, definitely they have a division developing accounting standard. Okay, I think the heads, one of our alumni in my batch, basically heading the section on these accounting standards. So these are options. All right, you can download them for your knowledge, but for the selected standards, I think we already will. I think I will share from time to time about the standards. Okay, we come back on right. Okay. All right, so that's the source of accounting standard. So you can download them, get your copy. Right, and then these are the process of issuing the standards, exposure draft, exposure draft, and then members approval. Okay, just for your information. Okay, conceptual framework for financial reporting was issued in 2013 to apply to general purpose financial reporting under accrual basis of accounting. Okay, role of conceptual framework establishes concept underpin financial reporting by public sector organizations, provide guidance in dealing with financial reporting issues not dealt with IPSAS or recommended practice guideline. Providing guide on qualitative characteristics of information in financial statements, okay, including relevance, faithful presentation, and understandability. Yeah? I think last time we used true and fair view. I think even some accountants still use true and fair view. Okay, I think nowadays they mention about faithful presentation. Right, I think in terms of conceptual framework, this also under MFRS, I think definitely will be discussed as well. But here just an overview, because I think in terms of theories and all that, you can what do you call it? Discuss in detail in accounting theory or something. But I think in terms of the word relevant, faithful presentation, understandability, Did you come across this concept before, class?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So expert already, yeah. Okay, so that's about the lecture. Okay, now I move on to get your copy of this fund accounting exercise. I put it in the GC. Did you have it? Fund accounting exercise class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So we will. Okay, so these are the example. Right. Fund accounting exercise. I think if you look at the topic for this week, okay, beside the conceptual, the theory behind, okay, and then we discuss on the basis of accounting, okay, and then I also highlight the importance of fund accounting in the government. Right. So these are examples, okay, how fund accounting can be applied. Right. It may not be in practice in Malaysia. Okay, I think big part of it is basically based on fund accounting, also budgetary accounting. I think in this fund accounting exercise, there are two fund accounting as well as I can put that as a budgetary or commitment accounting. Commitment accounting. Okay, so basically two accounting technique we discuss here. All right. But pretty much, of course, I think the idea is in terms of to show you that a fund can be as an accounting entity. That's the idea. Okay, local government, general fund. So the idea is if it is general fund, sounds like unrestricted. Okay, I think we discussed that restricted and unrestricted fund. Okay, general fund sounds like it's unrestricted, and then it's like the main fund for the local government. So in other words, if the local government or the government entity have multiple funds, okay, from unrestricted to restricted, okay, just for because everything must be budgeted for. If you remember that how important the budget is, okay, this basically I think we discussed about both. One is if they have a general, double entry system, then they can use this. Okay, that's one. The other is to demonstrate to you that how fund as an accounting entity. Secondly, to show the relevant accounting entries. Of course, some items are very unique for government agencies. Right, that's one. The other, of course, if you look at textbooks, accounting textbooks, public sector accounting textbook in the US, okay, so all these, they have these examples. In the US, fund accounting and also budgetary or government accounting basically is part of professional exams to gain your CPA qualifications. Right, so if you look at this, local government, general fund, the trial balance, right, just one example. Okay, so you can see that it's a accrual accounting. Okay, they have cash, tax receivable, and then estimated uncollectible tax, accounts payable due to federal government. Okay, so local government due to federal government. So transfer is basically, and then fund balance. So you can see that they don't have equity. So instead of equity, they have fund balance unreserved. So unreserved, you can see that unrestricted. So it's more flexible to use them. Whereas one is restricted, then of course need to refer to the trust deeds, to the specific objective, what need to be, how that to be. Okay, that's the trial balance, and then these are the transactions during 2020. Okay, so total estimated revenue budget. Appropriation. Appropriation is the word for our the planned expenditures. Okay, so being budgeted for, even in this case, transfer to debt service fund. Okay, it should be debt, not debit. Okay, it should be debt service fund. Okay, debt service fund, and total plan transfer to internal service fund. Okay, so in other words, I think in Malaysian government also, they have to allocate budget for debt service. Okay, basically repayment of the all loans. That's one, or maturity of the bonds. Okay, of course they have to go through refinancing of the bonds as well. As well as other debt. If these are consolidated loans, definitely they have to provide the budget for it. Of course, I mean, these are examples, it's only 200,000, okay, but in the case of Malaysian government, I think what, more than 20 billion or something, okay, that provided for. All right, and transaction, that's definitely allocation of budget beginning of the year. Okay, number 2, pay all liabilities as of end 2019. Okay, purchase order issued for material. Do that trigger accounting entries? Okay, tax receivable for 2020, 3.2 million. Okay, just as a collection. Cash collection of tax receivable, cash revenue from license and permits. Okay, you can see that, right? Only government can have this type of revenue, isn't it? Based on license issuance. Okay, sometimes they didn't even call that as a price. It's more on fees. Fine, okay, all kind of fines, charges for services, right? And then basically possibly counter services, okay, healthcare, or maybe school fees. But for government, at least local government, maybe charge for services, yeah, all kind of services in the local government office, isn't it? Material and supply received with the invoices of 800,000 related to PO, okay, 795,000. Okay, the PO is 795, but the invoice is 800,000, so they send more than what the orders are. The gross pay to employee, okay, and then pay accounts payable, execute transfer to other fund, write off uncollectible, and then contribution to additional retirement fund. Okay, yeah, I think government also they have retirement fund. They have to provide for it. Okay, for the civil servant. I think that's the advantage of civil servant because they have a pension. Pension. Okay, and then pension means they will receive pension, monthly pension. They don't receive annually, they receive monthly. So, of course, when they retire, they will see their pension. Generally, government servants, they are under pension. But in the case of Malaysian government, there are two types. One is for departments, ministries, all these are pension-based. Whereas statutory bodies, companies, we are under EPF. So we don't have retirement fund allocated there, but the agency need to basically, but I think directly they allocate through the salary. Right, but I think the retirement fund is basically under KWAP, isn't it? Kumpulan Wang Persaraan, something. So huge, I think one of the government GLICs, government linked investment companies, okay, the KWAP, huge amount. I think they also somehow was linked to one NDB, and beside the KWSC or EPF. All right, so just a simple example, just to highlight or demonstrate to you relevant entries, possible entries in the case of government entities. Okay, requirements show relevant entries, including the closing entries for above-mentioned transactions, show relevant entries for revenue account, okay, so we make it as a whole, okay, revenue account, and expenditure account, prepare statement of financial performance with changes of fund balance, and then prepare statement of financial position. Right, with regards to the budgetary, these are budgetary entry. Okay, for the revenue, because 6.2 million was provided for the revenue. Okay, make it a bit bigger. Okay, so when they propose, because of government, they have to go budget for revenue as well as expenditures. So not only the expenditures for appropriation for allocations, but for the revenue as well. So total recorded estimated revenue collected. So debit estimated revenue account. So these are budgetary entry. Credit fund balance. Okay. So budgetary items in fund balance. 6.2 credited. Okay, reflecting the amount that can be used. And then to record use of allocation, appropriation. So fund balance is debited by 6 million. Appropriation 5.2 million, right? And then plant transfer also and are booked in the accounting system. Okay. So this it's like opposite of expenses, isn't it? Okay, expenses you normally debit, but here you credit. So similarly, in the case of estimated revenue, normally revenue you credit, but here you debit. So these are budgetary entry. Right. Then number 2 is about payment of accounts payable at the end of the year. Okay, there are 2. One is in 2019, accounts payable 155 and due to federal government 30,000. Okay, payment means you pay cash, so credit cash. Then number 3, okay, look back at number 3, purchase order issued. Okay, so look at transaction 3. Okay, it trigger entry, Okay, very specific. They call it encumbrance, debit encumbrance. Okay, debit encumbrance and credit reserve for encumbrance. This is another example of budgetary entries. Right? Maybe you argue, is it necessary, whatever, and is it in practice? Of course, in Malaysia it is not in practice. In the US it is. But I think, for academic purposes, we just share. Of course, in Malaysia also there are budgetary entries. Okay, they use under vote accounting, vote book, right? But of course, vote book is part of budgetary control. Okay, there are also entries for budgeting, budget figures and budget transactions as well. Okay, I think they use commitment accounting. Okay, as part of to control, to monitor the level of expenditures used. Right, so you can see that debit encumbrance and credit reserve for encumbrance. I think it's very obvious, because government they book commitment, because once you issue purchase order, it's a kind of commitment. Because you're entering into contract. Once the goods are delivered, then definitely payment will be triggered. So the idea is it's part of budgetary control. Okay, so that's why they call it budgetary accounting. Because PO issued means they cannot use that amount of money. Okay, it's part of basically the use in transition or something. Okay, so need to be accounted for to make sure that they won't overspend. Okay, they won't overspend from the budget. So that's why these are the entry. Okay, look at number 4, estimating to book for the revenue. Okay, to book for the receivable, tax receivable. Right, so you can see that debit tax receivable. Okay, credit revenue. So you can see clearly these are just like sales, income. Say, okay, you credit revenue, you debit what do you call it? You debit tax receivable, just like accounts receivable. So very similar. And then receipt of cash, collection of tax. Okay, debit cash, credit tax receivable. Right, and then the collection of revenue. Okay, cash-based revenue. Okay, license, permit, fine, and charges for services. Okay, debit cash. Right. So I think the unique is of course the items. So you don't find this for private sector. Okay, revenue, license, fine, charges for services as an income. Okay, generally you cannot find this for the private sector, and it's so illegal for them. Okay, to collect tax or to charge for license. But these are government body, right? They have that mandate. Right, and then number 7, expenditure. Okay, when the delivery of the expenditures. Okay, debit expenditure 800,000, credit accounts payable. Right, and there is corresponding entry because when the PO was issued, we have that budgetary entry, right? So that budgetary entry will be zero rise. Okay, debit reserve for encumbrance 795, credit encumbrance 795. Because why 795? Because it's made. I mean then the payment is made. Then okay, the debt credit debit the due, and then credit the cash. Similarly to internal service fund. Okay, but actually in terms of fund here, these are all real name. If you look at in the case of tax US textbooks, okay, they use all these names. Okay, and what do you call it? Transfer out internal service fund, same thing. Okay, that's for number 10. Number 11, okay, booking the unreceivable, uncollectible tax. Okay, so being booked, 11. Then number 12, what is number 12? Okay, contribution, okay, contribution to retirement fund. Right, and due to federal government. So due to federal government is what? Is it an expenditure, revenue, or liability? Due to federal government? Class? Due to federal government, is it expenditure or liability? Liability. All right. Okay, so 12, debit expenditures, employee remuneration, then debit liability. It's basically retirement need to be paid, okay? So it's very important, okay? Even the private sector, okay? Salary, actually for the government, if you look at the government, the most priority payment for the government is what? In ranking. They have, let's say, suppliers, employees, and contribution. So which one should be the first payment, first priority payment? Class, are you following me? One more time, for the government entity, even in the private, but private sector they have more discussion. Okay, let's say just focus on government. Okay, in terms of priority of payments, okay, who should give the first priority? One, the suppliers. Second, employee. Third is other contribution. So which one?
Employee.
Supplier.
Employee.
Yes. For government, the first priority of payment is salary. Okay. So the salary of civil servant is the first priority. They must get paid first before others get paid. Okay. So unlike in private sector, sometimes depending on the crisis, okay, if nowadays with the COVID crisis, very tough time, I think what they do is basically to float the business. Okay, one of the options, of course, to delay payments to the suppliers, and sometimes the delay in payments of salary as well. Okay, of course, in a very bad condition. Before they move, I think before the delay, sometimes they reduce the salary. Okay. Okay, but in the case of government, before they pay their supplier, they should pay the salary first. Okay, that's why I think it's quite. But of course, the government, the reliability, because of the reliability of payments, they may take some time to pay. Okay, if there is delay, but definitely they will pay. Okay, that's why I think the best customer in terms of cash collection will be the government agencies, and as opposed to private sector. Right, so that's number 12, and then number 13, we look at closing entries. Okay, closing entries. Right, of course, I mean all these revenue and P&L, in other words, find P&L items, like revenue or zero rise be transferred to subject to for closing. Okay, debit revenue, credit fund balance. Okay, expenditures as well will be credited to fund balance. All the transfer to basically transfer out, transfer out, basically reducing the fund balance. All right, and okay, and then the budgetary entries also being zeroized. Okay, estimated revenue, debit fund balance, credit estimated revenue. These are the initial entry, as well as the appropriation. All right, and then for encumbrance, okay, instead, okay, there are 5,000 still not delivered yet, the PO. So debit reserved for encumbrance, credit fund balance reserved for encumbrance. Okay, in this example, definitely the budget can be carried forward. The budget can be carried forward. That's why they have reserved for encumbrance. And these are options of entries. These are options of entries. And yeah, I think if you look at the US, definitely the state are basically independent, isn't it? Okay, the majority they can collect their own money. Okay, and as well as local government. Okay, unlike the agencies within the government, then of course they have that limitations of cannot they receive the budget and cannot carry forward. Generally, right, and then we move to the revenue account. Okay, so you look at this, the revenue account. Not only they have actual revenue, they have the budgeted column as well. So I use this horizontal account. Adjustment and balance. Okay, so tax receivable, actual revenue, 3.2 license. So the total revenue is 6. What is being budgeted for is 6.2 million, but the actual revenue is 6 million. Okay, so in other words, they fail to collect 200,000. Okay, so the actual is less than the estimated revenue. Okay, so of course this since it is budgetary kind of comparison, this also can trigger a question. Right, revenue and then expenditure account. Okay, there is appropriation account column, then encumbrance, expenditures. Right, so appropriation is for the budget, for the allocation, and then if you look at the encumbrance, once they do encumbrance, they deduct based on the allocation. Okay, so allocation reduced by 800,000. Okay, so there is expenditure, and the last column they call it unencumbered balance. So this basically what is remaining. Similar to vote book, where they should know what is the balance that they can still use. So you can see that based on the encumbrance, based on this budgetary entry, then they know up to date how much is still left to be used. Okay, so once they receive the material, okay, they zeroize the budgetary 795, but the expenditure received is 100,000. Okay, so that also reduce the unencumbered balance. Staff salary expenditure reduce the allocation and employee remuneration. So in other words, the total is around 4312. So in other words, okay, I mean, because these are I think 1 month, isn't it? Okay, 1 month transactions. Okay, so these are the balance still can be used, can be utilized for the expenditures. I think the idea is to show that clearly how much is left still can be used to for the to fund the activities. These are fund balance. Okay, fund balance. Okay, these are corresponding entries based on the. So the idea is you can see that at the end they have a balance carried forward 1188. So for this government they can carry forward their balance. I think all this plug in all the corresponding entries you just put into the fund balance account. Any questions so far, class? Or I'm talking to myself? Any question? Oh, 85 students only. What happened to the rest? 85 means almost 20 students missing. Wow. Scary. I think last class, many sisters group, yes, many of them, I think almost 10, saying that their members are all, their members basically present. Okay, but what about brothers? Please, I really need your help. I'm also checking. We have any problems or not? If you, I mean, because of internet problems, I think it's good to notify me as well. That if you miss class. Okay, by right, the attendance also is required now because we are now in full, what do you call it, online learning. Okay. So attendance matters, so make sure that you keep your attendance. All right, 85 students. No questions, Straightforward. Okay, good. Is the example easy to follow? Just now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Because just want to highlight, it's an example. Okay, so we continue. Sorry, where is it? Okay, now we move on. Okay, these are the financial performance. Okay, general fund statement of financial performance with changes of fund balance. Okay, revenue, tax, license, total revenue, and then less expenditures. Okay, and then you have excess of revenue over expenditures. And then you can see that transfer out is reported separately. Yeah. Okay, it's reported separately as a separate caption. Okay, very consistent with the SOP. Okay, that transfer must be reported at the gross. Okay, and must be reported as a separate item. Okay, and then the net changes in fund balance. Okay, 895. Of course, this can be expected to be reported in the financial position, statement of financial position. Okay, fund balance opening, fund balance closing, just like retained earnings, isn't it? Just like retained earnings. Okay, that you take into account the opening fund balance in presenting the closing, or end. Fund balance ending. Right, and then we move to the financial position. Any question on the financial performance statement? Any question? No. All right, now we move to statement of financial position. Okay, they have cash, tax receivable, so these are accrual accounting. Tax receivable, and then liabilities due to federal government, due to state government, accounts payable, and then fund balance. Okay, but you see fund balance there is a reserve for encumbrance and unreserved. So clearly shown that restricted and unrestricted items. So this definitely can be used for multiple use, and can be used for. Okay, I ask you for the next for the next period. How much is available to be used, right, for, to cover or to support their operation? How much still can be used to support their operation in terms of fund balance? Anyone? In terms of fund balance, how much can be used to support the operation? Any answer? Class?
5,000.
One more? Two more? How much can be used to support the operation? How much is left to support the operation in terms of fund balance? How much? Okay, one answer 5,000. The other?
5,000.
Okay, second time 5,000. Another answer? How much still can be used to support the operation? How to support the activities of the government. Anyone? How much in terms of fund balance? Any question? Hello? Oh, no answer. Okay, it should be the unreserved, unreserved 1.183 billion. Okay, so this can be used for the operation, because not subjected for encumbrance and not subjected for transfer at this point. Okay, I think that's about it for question number 1. Any question?
Sir,
Yes.
what is encumbrance?
Encumbrance is basically commitment. Commitment
To
You are encumbered. It's like a commitment, but the word used encumbrance.
so towards like a party or what?
Okay, if you remember why this encumbrance was there you can check the original entry. Yeah. Okay, the original entry was these are the entry. Okay, basically at PO. When they when they issue PO, they debit encumbrance and reserve for encumbrance. Okay. So when they issue PO, remember PO? You remember PO? Remember or forget already?
Trying to recall, sir.
Okay, let me recall for you. This puasa, don't worry, I'm very generous. You remember when you want purchases? If you still remember purchases, isn't it? So issue PO, purchase order to suppliers. That's the initial stage. And when you make purchase, you issue PO, you send PO to the suppliers, right? Okay, at that point, these are the entry: debit encumbrance, credit reserve for encumbrance. Okay, so of course you issue PO, purchase order to your customer or to your suppliers.
Supplier.
Supplier.
All right. So and then there are payment. Okay. So once they receive the order, so the PO is 795. Okay. So but the original PO is 800,000. So there is 5,000 left. Then you can see that when they're doing the closing, they reserve. Okay, because you make order, then definitely they will deliver, right? So they have to put reserve. So reserve 5,000 still reserve for the PO. That's why they put fund balance reserve for encumbrance. Okay, so what is the answer now? So this reserve for encumbrance is for whom?
Supplier.
Supplier.
Yes. So this unreserved can be used to pay salary, can use to pay another PO, okay, and others, right? All right. Other question? No. Okay. No. Yes. Yes. No. No. Yes. Okay. Right. Continue.
Sir,
Yes.
for the book closing entry,
Okay.
the revenue and fund balance, why is
Yes.
6 million? Because in the estimate revenue and fund balance is 6.2 million.
Right. This revenue 6 million. Let us look at the account. So look at the revenue account. Yeah. So if you look at the actual is 6 million. So 6 million is basically the fund, the actual revenue is 6 million. So that closing entry is basically for the revenue, for the actual revenue, 6 million. For the estimated revenue, 6.2. So this one basically being zero rise. So that's how you get the 6 million is the actual revenue. Okay, of course you just call revenue. Okay.
Okay, noted. And for the expenditure account,
Okay.
I don't understand the under encumbrance.
Encumbrance, yes.
And yeah, the meaning for this is it located 800,000 for
Okay, yes.
encumbrance, and this
Right.
fund for 795,000 for material supply.
Okay.
But I don't understand the part.
Yeah, all right. No worry. All right. The appropriation, the allocation is 5.2 million. Okay. When they issue PO, they deduct from the allocation. Okay. 800,000. So you must remember this 5.2. You go to the final. Is the total amount can be used. It's a budget allocation. So once they issue the PO, they deduct 800,000. Okay. They deduct 800,000 because it's part of the commitment. So you can see that the balance of the unused budget is 4.4 million. So at this point, they can, once they issue the PO, what is remaining to be used is only 4.4 million. Okay, that's one. I think that's quite clear, isn't it? Because the issue PO is a commitment. They cannot use this 800,000 for other purposes. Okay, it's just to serve for the PO. Right. Once they receive the yes, once they receive the description is receiving the material, so they zero-rise this encumbrance. But the PO received is referring to PO. The PO amount is 795. Okay, they don't receive the whole amount. Okay, they just receive 795, the relevant PO. But the amount, the value of the material supply is 800,000. Okay. So that's why this one is zero rise because of this entry. You remember this one? Reserve for encumbrance 795, credit encumbrances. Okay. These are reported in the expenditure account. Under these encumbrances is basically for this account. Encumbrance, the column there. Okay, credit positive, 795. Okay, so the corresponding, and then got it, at the same time, they book expenditure. So expenditure increased by 800,000. Okay, debit. Okay, in the bracket, debit. So you can see that. So the remaining is basically 5,000, isn't it? So that's why the unused balance reduced by 5,000. Okay, agree? Follow?
So means actual value is 800,000.
Yeah,
I mean
the actual expenditure is 800,000. The amount that they pay, they will have to pay the suppliers for this PO is 800,000. Correct.
And 795 is estimation or what?
Estimation.
Estimation. Okay.
Sorry, not estimation. The PO value.
PO
The PO
value.
The PO value.
So
yes.
what's the 5,000?
Sorry.
What is the 5,000?
Then the 5,000. Of course, I mean it's possible, isn't it? That PO is 795, but what do you call it? The suppliers can send more than what is expected. So this is a scenario. Okay? This is a scenario.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, fund balance. Okay, any other? One more question on this? All right. Now then I continue with the second question. Second question, government agency statement of financial position is given to you. Okay, the balance sheet. Okay, there are two columns here. One is unrestricted fund. Okay, and then restricted fund, and total. Okay. So restricted is under trust fund. The government has so many trust fund. Okay, so I think at this point you understand already what does it mean with the unrestricted fund and restricted fund. Instead, of course, so you can see that under unrestricted fund, you can see the fund balance. Fund balance under restricted fund, there is reserve and unreserved. Okay, so reserve this 50,000, of course, is still, just like as we discussed just now. Okay, has been there's a commitment with that. Okay, unreserved still can use for other purposes. Whereas the restricted fund is only the fund balance is okay under reserve. It means that restricted. Okay. Right. So these are the financial position. So the requirement present the fund balance section in the statement of consolidated financial position. So how to present it in the consolidated financial position? Can you do that in 5 minutes? Or you want to have it as homework? Class, which one? You want to try or you want to have it as homework? Very easy, but I just want for you to show fund balance section. And you can WhatsApp your answer. Right. Okay. So hold on. Right. Okay. Since no response, I assume you want it that to be as what? As a homework, simple homework lah. It's not really homework. Simple homework. How to present it? Okay. Under consolidated financial statement. Okay. So I keep. Okay. So silent mean agree, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
All right, so so for this, we keep it that as homework lah. Yeah.
Sir, which one is the homework? Okay, never mind.
Simple homework. Won't take your 5 minutes. For this one, for question number 2. Okay. You can share your answer in the WhatsApp group. 100 students, 100 answer. Or maybe is a I will call name. Then you share with me or something. That's how we'll do. To check because of the time. Okay, agree? Try that. We'll discuss in the next class. Agree or disagree?
Agree, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, agree. Okay. I know it's quite late and it's very tough to think at this point. Okay.
Agree,
Yes.
Agree.
Agree. Oh, okay. Don't worry. If you agree, so I consider that as homework. Simple homework, maybe 5-10 minutes. Just think of it, and then we'll discuss. All right. So, any other questions? Okay.
Not for now, sir.
Not for now. All right. So with that, I will end this. Did I record? All right. With that, I end this session with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.